Here are some facts for every single type of weapon in CSGO. Some of these you may know, some of these you may not. I decided to cover a whole bunch of stuff. This will be a long video. But before this video starts, I want to talk about csbumps, which might actually be pretty useful if you want to hunt down any of these skins. If you don't know Hade, he has been around many years and has worked with many creators. Recently, he has become the owner of csbumps, which at a fundamental level is what the golden days of CSGO Lounge looked like, but this time without all of these scammers and fake offers. By listing or searching through this site, thousands of people can see that you are listing an item without the need for a large Twitter following or paid exposure by using a middleman to sell. This site is completely free with paid options to automatically bump your trades to the top, which is important if you're trying to trade multiple items at a time. I see great utility in the site as it stands, and I was promised that updates are on the way. If you are interested, I have a code which is ptree 50, which gives you a premium trial period of 7 days with 50 uses. If you watch my content, you know I don't take many sponsors. This is one that I believe in. This video is all about unique skins, and this site is free exposure for items of that nature. Now on to the skins. The CZ is almost forgotten in the modern era of Counter-Strike, a full auto weapon with a 12 bullet magazine, 24 bullets total, a relatively tricky spray pattern, no one-shot headshot potential, and a pull-out animation worse than mine. It's no surprise you almost never see this gun in pro play. And due to that, it's no surprise that the CZ Victoria is one of the cheapest covert skins you can buy. The Victoria was actually the cheapest covert in the game for multiple years. At one period, this skin was worth the same price used as the key to open the case. The fuchsia can be argued as a misspelled skin. Fuchsia spelled like this is a purplish red or this plant's right here. For whatever reason in German, the name is spelled correctly, but in other languages, this seems to be a mistake. Apparently, this is a very common name to misspell, which is likely why it hasn't been fixed since 2014 when the Weapon Case 3 was released. Factory new crimson webs are one of the most expensive items you can obtain, and that's no exception for the CZ if you are able to obtain a StatTrak factory new. Crimson webs are notorious in factory new because of their float cap, meaning your odds for getting one of these in factory new is significantly lower than usual. There are only 331 registered StatTrak factory new crimson webs. Meanwhile, the StatTrak minimal wear has a registered quantity of 8,753. But that's the only noteworthy part of this skin. Despite the CZ not being a common skin, it's great for rounding out a green themed inventory, and that's because of the emerald. There are 14 4x optic hollow Atlanta 2017 crafts, 23 4x flipside hollow Atlanta 2017 crafts, 51 4x flipside Cologne 2016 hollow crafts. Look up any green sticker and there's a good chance you will find 10 or more of the same craft on this skin. The hand cannon itself has a plethora of skins, and that's no surprise considering the impact that this gun has. Second to its Glock and USP counterparts, as those weapons will be utilized twice per half, you will likely see a deagle on any force buy or any light buy throughout the course of the game. Many of us are waiting for something like the op print stream or AK print stream, as the creator has already finished those skins, but it's not surprising that Valve was partial to adding the deagle first. Does anyone like the golden koi? Well, since the lighting changes showcased in the CS2 beta for those who have access, it seems like some do. Between the skin looking significantly better and insane increases to the prices of older cases like the Bravo case in question, the golden koi actually fetches a pretty high price these days despite being relegated as the fire serpent bait for nearly a decade. There is a Sunset Storm 1 that includes a face and a Sunset Storm 2 that does not. These skins are the same rarity, come from the same collection, and maintain nearly identical prices due to this. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is the reason why this exists. The theory is that a mistake was made and both versions were released, and instead of changing all of them to one skin as people already obtained them, they just decided to leave them separate. This checks out, as the Rising Sun collection that contains this skin has 4 purples. The Gods and Monsters collection only has 2, and the Chop Shop collection only has 2. It's weird that the Rising Sun collection has so many purples compared to its counterparts, so this seems like a reasonable explanation as to why there's two almost identical skins. Despite the hand cannon being used for Dragonlord trade-ups, the Blaze is actually the most expensive skin that you can own currently. All you need to do now is slap an iBuy Power Hollow on it, and now you have a flamethrower. The lowest listed flamethrower on buff is currently 170,000 RMB or $23,000 USD. Dual Berettas have seen a significant usage increase in the last 2 years. What used to be a joke gun, crouch walking through mid while playing strat roulette, has now become a legitimate monster in pistol rounds. Unfortunately, the Dual Berettas are still a gun that does not have a covert, which is the highest rarity of skin in the game. That being said, now that the gun isn't a joke, maybe Valve will give it a hand and release something unique. Not a fact, just personal opinion, but I would argue that the dualies have one of the worst selection for skins for any gun in the game. Tons of filler skins for collections that are just two-tone or have a theme, but no real design worth mentioning. Despite this, the dualies have some very expensive skins in the Twin Turbo Souvenir from the 2018 Inferno collection, and the Duelist from the Chop Shop collection. Now the Twin Turbo prices will likely come down as more get unboxed, as this is an active collection for future majors. But I don't blame people for not wasting their tokens on Inferno Souvenir packages when these are the best skins that you can get. I wouldn't expect a ton of these to get unboxed anytime soon. The Elite 1.6 skin is a 1-to-1 of the 1.6 dualies. That's what I mean by filler skins. It's essentially a default skin that has been transported to CSGO, and you have to pay for it. You can't ignore the Jesus pattern dualies. Fortunately, this pattern exists on the cheap colony skin, so everyone can acquire Jesus in their lives for cheap. When reloading the 5.7 monkey business, the magazine says num on it. Also worth noting that there are 236 registered 4x stupid banana foil crafts for this skin. In the current market, that's $47,000 USD of stupid banana stickers, all used for identical crafts. Due to the existence of the 5.7 case hardened, we have to talk about it. 690 and 278 are your best possible blue gems. These days, even 5.7s are selling for thousands of dollars for tier 1 patterns. I would argue that this 4x Titan Hollow with pattern 690 is the most expensive 5.7 in the game. Sticking with pattern-based skins, the berries and cherries made a pretty big splash when it first dropped. The skin is split 50-50 between red and blue. Based on the pattern, this ratio will change. Full red, people don't really care about, but full blue acts like a fake blue gem. There are a ton of patterns that are nearly identical in terms of a full blue pattern, and you would have to count the pixels to notice the differences. Therefore, these unique patterns are actually relatively affordable. The 5.7 Cami has become quite notorious for pattern 909, mostly from the influence of Onipixel, just like a certain Huntsman. What people may not know is there's a plethora of patterns for this skin, patterns with the same concept as 909 because we're degenerates. But there are funny faces, and cultural specific symbols and designs, and they face the player at all times, making Cami patterns one of the most unique in Counter-Strike. The Wasteland Rebel will say kill them all in Factory New. In Battle Scarred, a bunch of small text will also appear. The Bomb Code and Leet Crew being the two easily noticeable marks, but there's a ton of little Easter eggs. Gamma Doppler trade-ups are still broken. Due to Gamma Dopplers being pattern-based, what we should have expected was a 50% chance at a random Gamma Doppler, and a 50% chance at an M4A4 coalition. What we got instead was a 16.67% chance at the M4, and an 83% chance of the Gamma Doppler. This is due to each individual phase, including the Emerald, getting its own outcome in trade-ups. Whether this was a mistake or not, we will not know until Valve add another Doppler or Gamma Doppler skin into the game. Glock Moonrise has a bunch of star patterns, with some centered and some to the side. Don't fall for overpay on these, it's a fad that almost instantly died out, and you can get them for market no problem these days. As a grinder enjoyer, I have done a little bit of research on these over time as I started a bit of a collection. The two main patterns you're looking for are 384 and 916, which are the best looking black patterns in the game. 384 is considered the best pattern as there's a slightly faded gray circle on the side of the slide. Meanwhile, the 916 has a much more prominent gray pattern on the top of the slide. Here's how many registered 384s exist. Any markets you look at, people are listing these for hundreds of dollars or more, but with patience, you'll find deals as it's hard to sell these for big overpay. Well known, but the Glock sacrifice is a reference to the Olaf clutch from Cologne 2014. P2000, the default pistol of CSGO, and in my opinion, a gun that gets lower usage than it should. Unfortunately, the P2000 has very little in terms of unique skins. Somehow, the most infamous P2000 skin is a $1 granite marbleized, but there's a good reason. This cute little hamster on the back. Pattern 125 is what you're looking for, and due to the skin dropping in-game and only being a light blue, there are 2,736 of these registered. The dispatch has some patterns, but the best are on the handle where your hand rests, and the Oceanic kind of falls short compared to the Cami. The handgun is a cool skin because it's literally a handgun. Anyways, I don't know why the P250 has so many good skins, but I'm not complaining. One of the best budget skins in the game has to be the P250 Franklin. This is another skin that drops in game, so there's over 500,000 of them, but for the same price as a key, it's a pretty damn good skin. I personally enjoy the idea of float cap skins, and there are two notable skins on the P250, one being the Modern Hunter, which is float capped at 0.06, therefore only 142 exists, and the Whiteout, which looks pretty rough outside of factory new, but due to the same type of float cap, only 2,000 exist. The P250 Nevermore actually has a Raven on it, and depending on the pattern, you can get it centered on the slide. For whatever reason, Valve chose the P250 as a skin they would use to announce the X-ray unboxing system that they use to bypass laws against gambling. While the rest of us buy X-ray packages from the store, with nearly impossible odds of profiting, those with French Steam accounts have genuine X-rays that cannot be traded or sold. The R8 revolver might be the craziest gun in CS. To start, it takes the case as the most overpowered weapon ever officially released in the game. You could buy it every single round outside of pistol round, and you're free to run around like a cowboy one-shotting everyone. But even for the skins, this gun is completely broken. When the R8 Bone Mask was added to the existing Bank collection when released, Valve made a little bit of an oopsie and added it to the old souvenir packages. Now these old packages are very expensive, but if you're lucky enough to get one, like 9 others have, then you have one of the rarest skins in CSGO. This gun is just broken all around. Not only is there an R8 Crimson Web which has a desirable factory new as per usual, but there is an R8 Crimson Web with 5 recent Katowice 2014s on it. Luckily, no one was crazy enough to put hollows, but this is crazy enough, even though the craft price was only $1,000 back in 2018. If you can't afford the cool blaze, you can get this blaze, and you can be even cooler by applying all 5 stickers. Nothing better than a Tech 9 running 1-tap. And honestly, it doesn't get any better than a factory new Tech 9 nuclear threat. Due to the float cap, there are only 2 factory new nuclear threats, and one of them has all of these stickers scratched off. This skin you're seeing right here is one of a kind. The Tech 9 brother makes me uncomfortable. Not a fact, just needed to be mentioned. Sandstorm skins have patterns based on a template, and much like trying to get a max blue case hardened, the desirable Sandstorm is a max purple. Look for pattern 70, 271, or 583, and there are a few others that also have a large percentage of purple. People don't really overpay much for these, so after finally finding the patterns just to record this video, I took a look on Buff for the first time, and I bought this pattern 70 for 2 cents above market. The Hades skin features a bunch of Spartan helmets pasted across the gun. When worn, these helmets turn into skulls. The USP Kill Confirmed is arguably better looking in the censored Chinese version. I don't know why they went so hard on this, but I want it. Everyone knows about the Howl. Stolen artwork, contraband rarity, worth a ton of money. What seems to fly under the radar due to not receiving the contraband designation is the Orion. Just like the Howl, this skin cannot be unboxed or traded up to. The most expensive mil-spec skin to come from a case is the USP Blueprint. Not only is it a damn good looking skin for a blue, but it was also in the Hydra case. This is the first operation case that was removed instead of added to the active drop pool when the operation ended. Due to trade-offs being impossible as it's the lowest rarity, this skin can only be obtained by opening these now ridiculously expensive cases. But I think this skin could be passed up one day. Valve decided to do a little deja vu on us and did the same thing with the USP Black Lotus. Operation case that doesn't drop anymore, mil-spec rarity, damn good looking skin. Meat and bones of this video will be the AK-47, the most important gun in CS with some of the best skins in CS. And it better have some of the best skins as there are 18 coverts for the AK. Can't talk about the AK without talking about the case hardened. Until the Karambit sells, this will be the most expensive sale made in Counter-Strike, and there will be plenty of patterns these days that sell for thousands. It's not just scar patterns anymore. The Neon Rider is where popular stickers go to die. There are 18 Dignitas Cologne 2014 holo crafts. But even crazier, there are 18 LDLC Katowice 2014 holos applied to the Neon Rider. With current prices, that is $600,000 of LDLCs applied to this one skin. Another skin that has an unreasonable amount of expensive crafts is the AK-47 Vulcan. This skin was available in the Huntsman case, and due to its release date of early 2014, it would have been a very common skin to apply Katowice 2014 stickers to. And due to this, there are 16 4X Titan Holo crafts. If we assume that Titan Holos still sell for $60,000 a piece, even though the listings are significantly higher, that is $3,840,000 in Titan Holos used for identical crafts. A battle-scarred X-ray looks like this. Nice. The Safari Mesh was dropped as a souvenir for years, and was only a light blue for rarity. Despite this, due to the float cap, factory new souvenir Safari Meshes are worth a pretty penny, even without good sticker positioning. And if you get some stickers that people actually desire, they can go for some pretty crazy prices. I always wondered what the creature on the Nightwish was. Turns out that this is actually a deer. According to the author, the Nightwish represents a deer attack, which is tied to resentment or future struggles. In general, just a bad time. The Elite Museo is depicting two T's going up long A on Dust 2. I'll be honest, if I didn't look this up, I would have never noticed. The Safety Nets is a pattern-based skin. It doesn't change much, and there's really no overpay, but there is a max orange and a max white possible. If you are planning to craft with this skin, you can play around with the patterns, and maybe it will look better than you thought. Before getting mainstream success alongside the Krieg as overpowered weapons that needed to be nerfed, the AUG was a gun that no one used, except for Shroud, but that was only for one event. But for a weapon that rarely gets used, damn these skins can get expensive. The Akihabara Accept is part of the Rising Sun collection. This means that Valve personally made this skin. Not sure who is in charge of this, but whatever grievances you have with the game, channel it all to that developer or artist. I feel like most people know that the AUG Sid Mead is named after Sid Mead, who was a very famous artist. He worked on Star Trek, Blade Runner, Mission Impossible, Tron, Alien, and Star Wars. What people may not know is that Sid Mead was involved in the actual creation of this skin. Based on what we know, the entire artwork was actually created by Sid Mead himself. Caridium was the one who published the skin, which is fitting due to his Asimov creations. Some of this is detailed further in the 3 clicks video if you are interested. Hard to find unique op facts when they have been covered 1,000 times. This little bursty boy is next up, but no one uses burst in CSGO because it's trash. Please bring back the good burst. Thank you, Valve. The reason why the AUG commemoration is so shiny is because the creator used lighting that would make the skin look good in any shader settings. Many skins will lose their reflective qualities under low shaders. The commemoration appears to retain them, and I think that all skins should have this quality. If you pass by a yellow FAMAS and wonder why it became so expensive, you probably just got confused. On one hand, we have the FAMAS meltdown from the discontinued 2021 Train collection, and here we have the neural nets from the Falchion case. These skins are easy to differentiate when they're next to each other, but sometimes I get confused when I scroll the market. Almost all Galil skins are abstract artworks. Not sure why that is, but at least some of them are pretty cool. Old news, but the galil chatterbox opens the mouth when you fire, and on the backside it says "feed me." I remember when Big Skillet made a video centered around this, but making this video reminded me that I'm old and there's probably a ton of people that don't know this. Crimson Tsunami skins have variations in the position of the wave. While I couldn't find a guide as no one is overpaying, you can obtain the big wave, which covers the majority of the gun. The signal can be found in a full red pattern. Number 1 is pattern 500. Once again, I've decided to purchase one after finding this out, but they are a dime a dozen, and you could probably snipe one from markets if you are looking. On the Phoenix Blacklight, you can get the Phoenix centered on the body. If you're looking for a perfectly centered Phoenix, you need pattern 755, but there are many patterns that include a non-centered Phoenix if you don't want to overpay so much. Sandstorms also have a full purple pattern, with tier 1 being the 583 or 761. These do warrant overpay these days, despite flying under the radar for so many years. That's what happens when old cases can maintain prices like these. There is a skin called Vandal. This was released after Valorant, which means you know what's coming. Counter-Strike copied Valorant. That being said, it is a bad skin, so that checks out. The M4A1 has 9 covert skins, which is only half of the AK despite being the dominant M4 throughout most of Global Offensive, one of them being a print stream. I heckin' love the print stream. What I don't love is that the Mecha Industries is still broken in CS2. It's not as bad on the smaller skins, but for the M4A1, it just looks dirty, and I hope they make some changes. Night souvenirs are still worth less than any non-souvenir. Despite their rarity, in my opinion, a very good look in game, people are only after Dragon Lores. Because souvenir skins cannot be used in trade-ups, they are significantly cheaper than their boring non-souvenir counterparts. The Icarus Fell can be obtained in many different patterns. The goal is to get the most blue possible on the body. It's not hard to get a full blue Icarus Fell, but it's also not uncommon to see overpay. Despite having less time in the limelight, if you compare the two M4s, the A4 clearly has the best skins. There are bangers like the Howl, Tamaku if you're into that, I clearly am not, don't worry about it, In Living Keller, Emperor, Neo-Noir, Asimov, Coalition, Cybersecurity, and so on. I can't go through all the good M4A4 skins as it just feels endless. On the M4A4 Hellfire, the graffiti says "Welcome to Hell." I'll be honest, I found this through the workshop submission. Despite the author saying this, I still can't understand the text, but he says it's true, so it must be true. Another skin that could have seen the same fates as the Howl or even the Orion is the Griffin. Once again, the Griffin was created with stolen artwork, but instead of receiving a contraband rarity or getting removed from the case, this time it was just an artwork change. The skin is still obtainable through the Vanguard case, and no insane profits were made. Another gun that saw zero usage for many years until pros started experimenting. Turns out that Kriegs were unbelievably overpowered, and that's why we have price graphs like this due to the inevitable nerf. A skin like the Bulldozer was a very unique piece to own. Not only is it from the ancient Chop Shop collection, but it's also float capped, which matters a lot for a skin like this. Only 1,400 are registered, and they were a very hot commodity when the Krieg was actively used. Another hypnotic skin was released for this gun, and you know what that means. Something like pattern ID number 6 is a nice spiral in the center. Unless the creator is hiding something, there's no meaning behind the pictographs on the side of the Necropos. Now, one thing you may have missed is the text on the stock, but the pictographs seem to be a cosmetic choice, and that's it. Now, it's not a 661 case hardened AK. This is considered one of the best Abyss patterns with a high amount of blue or green based on the wear, as it turns a greenish color the higher the float becomes. Best pattern is 768, but I think it's cool that you could have a pretty baller 661 combo. You may think of the Acid Fade as a skin only used for trade-ups, but there's more than that going on. Acid Fades work much like regular fades, where you can have a high or low percentage. Why have you not seen people paying big bucks for these? Well, no one cares. Consider getting a full fade or full black pattern before buying a random one off the market. Who decided the stalker should be worth this much? I get that it's a covert, but damn, this thing is just staring at my face. I hate this skin. Probably the craziest thing I read while making this video is that a 13-year-old made this. I don't know what her brother has been showing her, or what kind of split was done considering how much money skin creators make, but apparently some dude's 13-year-old sister made a drawing, and that drawing is now in CS, and they probably got paid like $300,000 for that. It's honestly insane. Ah yes, another case-hardened skin. Unfortunately, the MAC-10 didn't get as much love, as tier 1 patterns don't really look that special. The goal is to get the most blue at the back and top of the receiver, as those are the most visible portions. Unfortunately, nothing looks that great, and most of the hype for these has died. One of the newer additions to the Counter-Strike arsenal. This gun was introduced as part of the Danger Zone update, and honestly, if they don't make any balancing changes or any cool skins, maybe it's time to delete it. This gun initially released with a free skin called the Lab Rats that millions of players received. Despite generating hype for the Red Rat patterns, this skin is ultimately a failure, just like the gun, and your best option was just to ignore it, just like I will in this video. Outside of the early CSGO days, we are all MP9 and MAC-10 enjoyers. Despite this, there are some baller skins like a full fade which can be obtained in a few different patterns, and if you need a relatively cheap MP7 skin, it's hard to disagree with the fade. Another skin that had to be modified for the official CSGO release in China was the MP7 Skulls. Unfortunately, changing skulls to a bunch of gas masks just doesn't feel the same. If you're interested in spending an unreasonable amount of money for an MP7 skin, you can always buy a factory new whiteout. Just like other whiteout skins, it is float capped. Due to its rarity and how clean factory new looks compared to minimal wear, these boys are expensive. The golden child of SMGs as it stands. I've seen some gross things done with MP9s. Once again, here is a hypnotic skin that few people care about. There is no way that the Setting Sun should exist. Setting Sun sounds like a Rising Sun collection skin. This skin is part of the Cash collection. This skin features nuclear symbols, just like many of the Nuke collection skins, but it's not a part of the Nuke collection. I don't know why this skin exists. Nothing makes sense. You can get a whole collection of different monsters on the MP9 Pandora's box. They all have different expressions and shapes, but there's nothing too special with these. McSkillet created some hype around the Happy Monster years ago, but I don't know anyone still actively overpaying for these. I think the Bizon deserves a slight buff. I need to see skins like this in game. A copyright claim that you probably haven't heard because, well, it's a Bizon, is the High Roller. Apparently this skin was changed by Valve, but even going back to the patch notes when this case was released, it looks exactly the same. It seems like whoever did a copyright claim failed in getting compensation, but it seems like Valve just never added it back to the workshop. Does this metallic dark colored with orange accent skin potentially ring a bell? If it does, that's probably because the author based it off of the Doom and Quake art style. Honestly, it's quite an interesting skin when you start to figure out what inspired portions of this artwork. Shoutout to the P90 for having the worst pink rarity skin in the game. Why is the skin not a blue? I'm not going to act like I've seen this skin in game, but I was surprised to see that the Neo Queen has a little screen on the back of the site. Starting to see many unique creations for this part of the P90. I hope artists keep experimenting, but maybe on something other than a P90. And as a side note, if you put big stickers on the P90, everything falls apart. People were speculating if maybe the gold bismuth would actually look gold in CS2. Unfortunately, it's still a little too dark as a brownish color with minimal reflections, which is probably why no one's talking about it. But I will say, it does look better. There are some pretty cool oscillator patterns, like this 412, which would be a full orange pattern. 509 is full black, and is honestly a pretty good template for stickers. People don't really care about the oscillator, there's a ton of them around, it's gotta be pretty cheap. And I'm about to expose Valve here. This might be lawsuit territory. The Indigo isn't even close to Indigo. I messed around with the screenshot for the markets, used it in-game standing in the shade, I used it in-game standing in the sun. So I don't know what broke or what was ignored when the skin was uploaded, but it isn't Indigo. Sorry, but I'm just going to group the rest of these together. None of the heavy weapons have received overly interesting skins, and some of these are repeats. What the community has done, like these 5 recent holo M249s, are more interesting than the skins themselves. If you want to blow money on something uglier than a dragon lore on a gun that you will never use, get this right here. Prince trade-ups do go hard though. Remember how the fire starter used to burn away as float increased? Well, that's broken in CS2. Please fix Valve. Look, I don't know what to call this thing. I saw people making it the day that it came out. I just have to call it the Cumcraft because that's exactly what it is. Shout out to the Counter-Strike community. Since no one actually uses the Nova, if you get a toy soldier with high float, you get these nice professionally drawn pictures that show up. There's one Negev that has a mixed craft containing both a recent holo and an iBuyPower holo. Easily over $100,000 in stickers today, and it's on a 50-cent Negev skin. And I initially wrote here that I won't bore you with the rest, but honestly, after recording this video, my voice is getting a little tired. But I just can't cover everything, and if you want to see more of these, maybe even some of the more obscure items, I can do a part 2. And if you think you have some crazy information that no one has seen before, throw it in the comments, and if I do make a part 2, I can cover it for you. And of course, if you made it to the end of this video, which is going to be a pretty long video, you are the GOAT. Thank you.